Yo, 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 what is up, y'all? It's Cone back here again tonight with another episode of After the Buzzer, the show where I recap the NBA games from the night. A lot of y'all were probably watching the March Madness tournament, so here I am to talk a little bit about the NBA games that you might have missed. The first team that I do want to talk about is the Chicago Bulls. They lost to the Phoenix Suns tonight, 102 to 129, and the Bulls have been on a little bit of a slide. They're 2-8 in their last 10 games. This game they lost by 27 points. It really wasn't even close. At the end of the first quarter, they're only down 3. Down 13 by halftime, down 23 by the end of the third quarter. It quickly got out of hand, and this Bulls team has dealt with a lot over the course of the season. They're a team that many people didn't think they'd even be close to the 1 seed, and they had it for a while, but they've been dealing with a lot of injuries. They were one of the first teams to really get hit hard with COVID at the beginning of the season. So the Bulls have been through a lot, and they fought through that adversity really well, a lot in part due to the play of a guy like DeMar DeRozan, who long established himself as an MVP candidate with the way he was playing. There was a stretch recently, like just a few weeks ago, where he was averaging like over 35 points per game, on over 50% shooting over the course of like 8 or 9 games. It was incredible what he was doing, the way that he has carried this team, and he still has been incredible in the season, but he's cooled off a little bit, which was to be expected. It wasn't like he was going to keep putting up 35 points per game on like 60% shooting the whole season or anything like that. And that kind of cooling off of him, combined with Vucevic, who's been really up and down this season, going through kind of a rough stretch, missing Lonzo Ball and Alex Caruso a lot recently. Caruso has come back now to kind of give them some of that guard defense back, but even so, missing Lonzo Ball, who has been out for a long time, I think is really taking a big hit on their defense, as well as their playmaking, something that you might notice when you watch the Bulls play at this point. It's really hard for them to kind of get open shots. They really miss his playmaking, his ability to initiate for others, because while Ayo Dosunmu has been great this season as a rookie and has really produced more than many people thought he would in his first season, he's not Lonzo Ball. He's not the guy that they signed to that big contract to be their starting point guard, to be their facilitator, to be that lockdown defender at the point guard position, hit threes at a high clip. Dosunmu has been great, but they really need Lonzo Ball. They really need him back. And I think that is a big piece missing. But something I've always said about kind of elite teams, what makes an elite team is that you can win without your best players, or at least one of your best player. You can still kind of grind out wins. And sure, this Suns team is the best team in the league. They, whether it's record wise or just team construction, in my opinion, the Suns are the best team in the league. Even without Chris Paul, they've still been having some great performances, winning a lot of games, and even in games they don't win, like against the Milwaukee Bucks at basically full strength, putting up a great fight. This Suns team, even without Chris Paul, is still really, really good. So it's not like I was expecting the Bulls to win or anything like that, but just the fashion, the way that they got blown out in this game, it was just so clear that the Suns are kind of on another tier, and the Bulls for a while seemed like one of those teams that could be a dark horse. They could make a run out in an Eastern Conference that was very wide open due to a lot of injuries, due to kind of uncertainties with like the Sixers, with the whole Ben Simmons situation, and even now like the Nets, like with the Ben Simmons situation, like when is he going to play? The Bulls look like at the All-Star break they were tied for the first seed, and now they're just like 1.5 games out, I believe, of the play-in tournament. They're right there. The Eastern Conference is so close, and the Bulls are in big trouble. Whether it's by fault of their own, whether it's by fault of injuries, they're in trouble because you do not want to be in that play-in tournament out east. You don't want to have to face like the Toronto Raptors out there. You don't have to face the Brooklyn Nets in that play-in tournament. And even if you make it out of there, in that first round, you've got a lot of tough teams. Bucks, Heat, Sixers, Celtics have really been on fire recently. The Bulls themselves are a decent team. The Cavaliers are a good team. Like, there are so many good teams out there in the Eastern Conference, the Brooklyn Nets even. You don't want to be one of those lower seeds, because if you have to go into like a Milwaukee or a Philly or a Miami in that first round, I don't know if the Bulls come out of one of those series. And for a team that for a long time was the 1 seed, and not only that, but they were dealing with so much adversity, so many guys being hurt, COVID issues, like it seemed like the Bulls were going to pull off the impossible and be a team that heading into the playoffs could win it, could like come out of the Eastern Conference or at least make a decent run. And things have kind of just fallen off. Not whether it's by fault of their own, like I said, they've not been quite playing to the level that they want to. Nikola Vucevic has been a guy that they really need to step up, especially defensively. He got killed by DeAndre Ayton tonight. He had 20 and 12 in only 24 minutes. they couldn't really do much against him, and yeah, that is Vucevic's part. But just like whether it's by like guys not being able to play defense or just inconsistent scoring or just inability to create without Lonzo Ball, the Bulls need to figure something out. And maybe when Lonzo comes back, all these issues are fixed, but that might be too late because by the time Lonzo comes back, and Patrick Williams is also supposed to come back soon, he's a guy that I have a lot of faith in. I really think could be pretty solid for them when he does come back. But by the time he comes back, it might be too late. They might be in the play-in tournament. They might have fallen behind because a lot of these teams are really hot. Now, given the Cavaliers, who did win tonight, have dealt with a lot of injuries. Jared Allen is out for a good bit of time. Darius Garland has missed some time, so maybe they could keep pace with them and stay out of the play-in tournament, like around like that 5 or 6 seed. But even still, like the Raptors are playing great basketball. The Celtics are going to keep skyrocketing past them if they don't start winning games. And so even if they're not in that play-in tournament, they're probably not going to have home court advantage in the first round, which is crazy to think about for a team that went through so much and they were still playing great basketball. And now when they're getting like a little bit healthier, they've kind of fallen off. And the teams that they're losing to, sure, they're good teams, but the goal of this Bulls team, or at least it looked like at the beginning, was to win a championship or at least compete for one. And so losing teams like the Grizzlies, like it makes sense, they're a good team. The Jazz, this Suns team, even without Chris Paul, like these are teams they want to beat. The only 2 wins they have are against the Pistons and the Cavs in the last 10 games. So really all that I guess to say is that the Bulls are in trouble, and it sucks because this is a Bulls team that I was really high on going into the season, that I've been rooting for, that I really do want to see succeed because they're a fun team. They've got a ton of fun storylines. DeMar DeRozan is one of my favorite storylines in the league this season, the way that he stepped up big time, become an MVP candidate for them, which now with the way that they're playing, he's probably kind of fallen out of that. But for a while, he was one of the top MVP candidates. It's been a great story for a team that has for like the last few years, been in the lottery to kind of have that big come up. It's been super cool to watch. And so I hope the Bulls are able to turn it around, get fully healthy. But for right now, we'll see just an ugly loss tonight. That's kind of been exemplary of the way that things have been going for them over the course of the last 10 games. Let me know if you think the Bulls can turn it around when they get healthy, if they're doomed, if they're just going to be a first round exit. Let me know because I'm curious in the comment section below. Also, real quick while I'm here, like and subscribe. Helps me out a lot. But moving on from them, the Lakers-Raptors game was really good as well. The Lakers came out on top in overtime. Scotty Barnes had a ridiculous game. There's nothing they could do. He had 31 points in this game. He was incredible, getting to the rim, like just kind of getting his shot. He was rebounding well, passing. Scotty Barnes is just so damn good and so fun to watch. He's one of those guys that came in, he really rose up draft boards a lot at the end of the year, and he was a guy that I was hoping would fall to OKC at 6, and then he got scooped up at 4 over Jalen Suggs, and it was like, oh my gosh, did the Raptors reach? They did not, because Scotty Barnes is incredible. Firmly in that Rookie of the Year conversation. Mobley is personally my pick, but that's neither here or there. That doesn't take away from what Barnes has been doing. But the Lakers, like I said, did come out with a win, which is huge for them, continuing to try and keep pace in that Western Conference play-in tournament. Russell Westbrook, at the end of regulation, like bricked a 3 off like the side of the backboard with a chance to send it to overtime, and everyone on Twitter is like, oh my god, it's Russell Westbrook, what are you doing, why are you shooting that? And then the next possession, Russ gets a steal and then hits the 3 that sends it to overtime, like super contested. It was a very like this season Russell Westbrook experience as a longtime Thunder fan, and Russell Westbrook being my favorite player of all time. It's something I've seen before. Russ comes up big in those moments. Sure, he's going to have those moments where he makes like a bad decision or he takes a bad shot and he misses, but overall Russ typically comes through in those situations. So I was really happy for my guy to see him come through in that situation. It was great to see. So shout out to Russell Westbrook on that one. It was a big moment for him, for a guy that has been through kind of a lot over the course of the season, that I feel like a guy that's really been, just with all like the media attention and stuff like that, like it's been a lot for him. He's been talking about his family, like feeling bad that like having them come to games and stuff like that and hearing like people heckle him. It's been a tough year for Russell Westbrook. So I'm hopeful that he can kind of turn this thing around. Even if the Lakers don't make a run, just have a good end to the season, try and go into next year with some positive momentum. That's what I'm looking for from Russ, and hopefully this is kind of a moment where he can turn things around. Moving on from that game, we had the Mavericks against the Sixers. Sixers coming out with a 10-point win in this one. James Harden had a pretty good stretch in this one where he kind of just took over, which is something that I know a lot of Sixers fans have kind of been looking for over the course of his tenure. I think they're now like 8-2 or something like that with James Harden, or like 7-3, something along those lines. Joel Embiid was incredible in this game with 32, 8-4 in 34 minutes. On the Mavericks side of the ball, Luka Doncic held to only 17 points, which isn't bad. Like 17, 7, and 10 isn't a bad stat line necessarily, but of course, when it's Luka Doncic, you would kind of usually expect better. 24 from Jalen Brunson, who continues to have a great year. The Mavericks were kind of just outmatched in this one. The Sixers really took advantage of their weaknesses, made them pay, and it was a big win for a Sixers team that, against a Mavericks team that's been really hot recently, coming off of Spencer Dinwiddie's game-winning shot against the Brooklyn Nets. It was a big win for the Sixers, as, like I said, the Eastern Conference is super tough. You have the teams like the Celtics that just keep winning. You've got, of course, the Miami Heat, who got a win tonight over my Thunder. Tyler Hero went off in that one. Bam Adebayo had a good game. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Trey Mann for the Thunder had pretty good games, but overall, it's the Heat against us. What were we going to do? But anyways, the Heat have really kind of just been keeping this thing going, despite injuries, missing Jimmy Butler tonight, for example, and still winning by double digits. So when you've got like a lot of really good teams, you have to keep pace, especially again, you have to win these matchups, because you can win all like the lower level matchups you want, but these are the teams that get you ready for the postseason, and these really ultimately are the wins that make or break your seeding. The Sixers trying to continue to fight for that first seed, or at least top 3, top 4 seeding in the Eastern Conference. Big win for them tonight, so shout to the Sixers. And finally, the Cavaliers beat the Denver Nuggets 119-116. Evan Mobley, similar to Scottie Barnes, had a monster game, 27 and 11. Just another great example of how great this rookie class has been. 31 and 10 for Lauri Markkanen, who had a monster performance. Nikola Jokic, despite in the loss, continued to kind of showcase why he's worthy of MVP consideration with 32, 10 and 8, a great game from him. 20 from Aaron Gordon, 17 from Bones Highland, 12 from Boogie, who has been pretty solid for them over the course of his tenure as a Nugget. Overall, the Nuggets are almost kind of biding their time right now, it feels like, until Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr. can potentially come back. I believe both of them now have been assigned to the G League team for kind of rehab assignments, so who knows? Maybe they'll be back soon. But for right now, big win for the Cavaliers, who have been struggling recently in the absence of Jared Allen. They really do miss his defensive presence. The duo between him and Evan Mobley down low is huge for them, especially as like lob threats, grabbing boards, just overall grabbing offensive rebounds as well, creating those second chance opportunities. They've missed him a lot, especially against a guy like Jokic, who is so dominant as a big man down low. They would have loved to have Jared Allen tonight, but even without him, they managed to pull out the win. So shout to the Cavs on getting a big one. So those are my recaps of some of the games. There were like a million other games that were played tonight, but they were pretty much all blowouts. Celtics blew out the Kings. You had the Jazz blowing out the Clippers. The Pelicans blew out the Spurs. There were like a million blowouts, so I'm not going to go over those. So for right now, that's kind of all you need to know. I appreciate y'all watching. Let me know in the comment section down below what your favorite moment was of today, whether it was NBA or March Madness. I might make a video tomorrow talking about some of my favorite prospects in March Madness, so if you do want to see that, let me know in the comment section below. But for right now, I appreciate y'all watching. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe, and I will see you all later. Real ones.